Bam. Yeah, welcome to our high-tech office.
Yeah.
We like our decorating here.
Yeah. Cool. It's nice. It's such a nice place, eh?
It is nice, man. Yeah, we've been here since January.
Yeah.
So it's been 8 months.
Yeah.
And time has flown by.
Yeah.
We've listened to your podcast too. Big fan.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
I love
Dan's a smart guy too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great to have around too. So, yeah, lots of knowledge. So.
Talking to us a little bit more.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can introduce you real quick here. So we have. How do you say your last name?
Rocha.
So we have Deon here, father, trainer, influencer, podcast host, and just an awesome person all around.
Thanks, man.
So I just want to get I love hearing other people's stories on how they balance everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it helps me with learning new tips and everything, and I think the listeners love hearing different styles of how to balance and figuring out how to do everything that they want to do.
Yeah.
Because I see that you do a lot of things that you want to do, but also balance it in with what you have to do. So can you let me know how you do these things?
No, that's great, and you really nailed it. Like, it's that balance of what you want to do and what you have to do. I think for me, in the last 4 years, that has shifted into a more realistic kind of long-term path. So, we talk about balance. You hear about balance in all corners of the world, but how many of us actually know what that means and what that looks like? That's different. Like, your balance, before we started this podcast, you were talking about, you're doing night shift, and then you have clients, and you're going to do a night shift again, and you're in here doing a podcast, and you're in here about to do some jiu-jitsu. So your balance and my balance is going to be a little bit different, right? Mm-hmm. I think it has to be broken down into what your priorities are, right? Mm-hmm. So I think your priorities kind of guide your actions, and your actions are what creates that balance. So I'll use jiu-jitsu as an example. When I started about 4 years ago now, I was obsessed right off the bat. So I wanted to go 4 or 5 times a week. All I wanted to do was jiu-jitsu. I was in the shower thinking about how I got caught in that position and what I could do to move away. And I loved it, and I got better at it really quick. Mm-hmm. But what I was noticing was that on a Saturday afternoon, when I hadn't seen my family all week, I was going to jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. And although I was getting really good at one place, it was taken away from another aspect of my life. Yeah. So finding that balance, I want to play the long game as opposed to the short game. And I think having priorities set in place, and then understanding what does that make my day look like. Mm-hmm. Without looking too far in, I know I just talked about the long game, but without looking too far away, what types of decisions am I making today, and how does that impact all the things that I prioritize? You have the way I see it is, you have a flower pot and you have a little bit of water in there, and you have to choose where you pour that. So yes, you can go ahead and train jiu-jitsu all you want, but I'm finding that if I hyper focus on one thing for too long, it takes away from something else.
You see, I can already tell you have a great mindset, because for people to even recognize that is a tough thing for a lot of people, mm-hmm. right? And if you want to be a good trainer, right, we talk about where does health, when you talk to a new client, mm-hmm. or anybody in general, mm-hmm. where they say, oh, where does health line up on your priority scale? Mm-hmm. Always top 3, top 5, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the times, do they take care of their health, right? That's the question, but they don't recognize that it's exactly what you said, is the priorities of balancing everything, mm-hmm. right? Like you said, when I asked you, how do you balance what you have to do with what you want to do, and you recognizing what you want to do is, it's enjoyable and it's helping you mm-hmm. in a way, but you still have to do what you have to do.
Yes.
So
absolutely, yeah. And I guess to build on that, you have to, and this is coming from a 29-year-old, by the way. So if you're listening, and you're like, man, what's this guy talking about? This is up to this point. My foundation I've built off of the things that I have to do. These are my responsibilities. My family is my responsibility. My career is my responsibility. And then not only that, the happiness, the quality of the relationships within my family and my professional setting. These are things that I have to invest in. I find that if I do focus on these things, everything gets easier. And sometimes that means evaluating, what it is that I want. Well, I want to be healthy, right? I want to exercise. I want to have fun. I want to be able to, to do jiu-jitsu. I want to be able to travel. Maybe if I focus a little bit more on the things that I have to do, it'll allow me to do the things that I want to do.
I think you hit it right on the button there, right? And what you said earlier ties in with all this stuff, with the playing the long-term game, right? If you think long-term, it's like, we'll use jiu-jitsu as the example again, right? So what I say to a lot of white belts, when they're only focused on, like, they get so excited with their first submission or submitting people and whatever.
Yeah.
When they should be, or focusing on trying to get the next belt.
Yep.
If we think about the long-term game, if you get your belts, what is that? Cool. It's great. Yeah, that's awesome. But if you don't get better, right? And that goes with getting better with your relationships, whatever. But in jiu-jitsu, if you don't get better with your techniques and you just get the next thing, what does it all mean, right? You know what I mean? Like, if we get stripped down to our base, what do we have, really?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and such a concrete point. I got my blue belt, and as soon as that happened, it seemed like things got harder.
Yeah.
Despite me being, better, if you want to look at it that way, I got a new belt. I leveled up. All of a sudden, I got a target on my back.
Yep.
Right? Guys are coming at me, and I got a little bit complacent, thinking that, hey, here I am at this level. I didn't put the work in, and a couple weeks went by, and it was tough times on the mats.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Definitely, that blue belt, I completely understand. Or anything, like any next level thing, it's that thought process of stepping up to that level.
Yes.
Right? And that might be your thought process on why you're like, oh, like, why do I not feel like I'm there when I'm there? Right? So it's a good mindset because it keeps you hungry, as long as it lets you keep you hungry, right?
Yes.
I feel like a lot of people either go one way or the other, where it tears them from getting better.
Yes.
Because they're like, oh my God, like, I shouldn't be at this belt.
Yeah.
Right? And we could use it, like I said, use it as a life example or in jiu-jitsu.
I mean,
I love using jiu-jitsu as an example, but
non-jiu-jitsu people are like, man, stop talking about jiu-jitsu.
oh yeah, 100%.
There's so many comparisons. I mean, like, just to build off what you said, like, I think looking, at yourself, where your position, looking at your actions, looking at, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? These are important questions. And one of the things that kind of came to my mind when we were talking about that was kind of my mindset leading up to maybe the last 4 years. Was I was almost afraid to fail. And that sounds a little, I don't know if that sounds conceited or whatnot, but I'll break it down, because what that looks like is, let's say there's a position, let's say there's a job, let's say there's a role that I really want, and I look at that and I think to myself, I'm not good enough for that. I don't, look at these qualifications, I don't stack up to this. There's so much fear in leveling up, in moving to that next level, that I don't even do it, because I think, I can't face that feeling of failure if I don't get that one thing. So I adjust my actions to, and I aim lower, right? I say, okay, well, here's something I can get that's almost a guarantee, so I'm going to go after that. And there's a book I'm reading by Grant Cardone, the 10X rule, and he talks about 10Xing your goals, and he talks about 10Xing your actions as well, right? So he has a good example, and it's a tangible example. Let's say your goal is to make $100,000 a year, right? Yeah. And you fall short of that goal. Yeah. Let's say you get to 50,000. Well, if you 10x that goal of 100,000 and you aim for 1 million. Now you fall short of that goal, and you've got to 200,000. So which goal would you rather fall short of?
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, again, tying this into jiu-jitsu, it's you get this belt, you get this almost a symbol of a new level, and you have to step up to that. Absolutely. But on the flip side, if there's so much fear and apprehension in getting to that next level that's stopping you from pursuing that or from going after that, if you're stuck in a place of kind of complacency and comfort, understand that if there's something that you want and you don't have the skill set or you don't have what it takes on paper or in your mind to get there, then focus on the things that you can do to get yourself there.
Yeah.
And if you're already there, then failure is one of the greatest tools that you can have that can teach you something. Like, look at jiu-jitsu, we're failing all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And what do? We look back and we say, how are we not going to let this happen again?
Yeah.
What sequence did it break down? Did I leave my hand on the mat for too long? Was my base disturbed? Was my timing off? What can I fix next time that can make me a little bit better? And you know, jiu-jitsu is one of those avenues where you can practice that and you can learn how to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Almost welcome that. If I'm feeling uncomfortable on the mats, I'm in the right place. Like, you want to talk about that quote, you know, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. I'm not the best one on the mat ever, so I'm in the right room. I'm learning from better people, but it's taking a lot of patience and checking that ego. You know, if you surround yourself with those people that want to see you get better and you want to get better, you will get better. And this is very similar between jiu-jitsu and life. That's what I found.
Yeah, recently. I like that mindset. It's almost as trainers also. We tell people all the time to play the cards we're dealt with. Yep. Because sometimes we don't have the best situation, but if we have that mindset of, you know, aim for that long-term goal, aim for that high goal, but put in that work that follows with it. Sure. Like, if you're like that, like, you should try your best and then everything. That's, you know, cliche as that sounds.
And you're a great example of that. I mean, like, you know, I see what you're doing on social media. You're always posting videos of yourself doing something. And I know that social media is one of these things that we like to use as tools, as trainers especially, to motivate others. Some of the stuff we do is probably for likes as well, right?
Yeah.
But as a trainer, you have to demand a lot of yourself, so that I think in return you can demand a lot of your clients.
Right? I love leading by example.
Exactly.
And I feel like if you are preaching balance or you're preaching certain things, in my opinion, I think you should be like trying to be that way that you're preaching.
For sure. It's
like, would I teach a bicep curl if I have never done a bicep curl?
Yeah.
Right? No, I'm going to do that 1,000,000 times before I teach it. Right? And that's where I feel comfortable.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
I want to go on to our next topic here.
For sure.
I know that you just got laser eye surgery, and we talked about that.
Yeah.
And I also got laser eye surgery.
Yeah.
So I don't know the feeling that you got when you got laser eye surgery, but I had a different appreciation for things that I look at.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about your appreciation of life and how it's changed for little things?
Okay, first of all, shout out to LASIK MD. I'm not getting paid.
100%.
But Dr. Johnson and his team run a tight ship. I would recommend it to anybody who is considering it. I was pretty apprehensive at first about someone shooting a laser beam in my eye, but from beginning to end, it was so thorough. I got it done on Dundas Street here in London, Ontario, LASIK. Within 24 hours, I was at 20/20 vision, and then they said that it would continue to improve. So I went in for a checkup 2 weeks later. I'm at 20/30 or 30/20. One of them was better than 20/20, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I've had glasses and contacts since I was 14. I kept getting moved closer and closer to the blackboard because I could see. And then finally I got glasses and I thought, wow, what a change. I can see things, right? But I guess it's like, if we want to make this, I'm going to give a typical hippie answer here, but it's an extension of your health, right? And it's something that, I remember the first night, or the first evening after walking my dog, and I was just telling Hockey earlier how about I was seeing birds and I was seeing the textures in the clouds, and like, they've always been there, but it's either I didn't pay attention to it or I just wasn't able to see, but it just gives you an appreciation of the health of eyesight, and thinking, there are people out there that don't have this. So I see it more of like a gift of like, hey, like I can see, I can experience. There is a certain level of like disinhibition, even going to do some jiu-jitsu later on today. It's like I can't wait to do things. I feel like I don't have to throw on contacts and scratch my eyes anymore. It's a good feeling, man. Oh, I'm smiling as I'm saying this.
Yeah, it's almost I say it all the time. Is counting your blessings, right?
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you're on the line of doing it or not doing it, and if it's because of cost, think of this as a lifetime investment.
Yep.
Lifetime. Like, this is not just buying like a car or whatever. You're changing your life.
Yeah.
That's what I truly believe. With vision, like, this is your eyes we're talking about, right?
Yeah. There are ways to finance it too. Like, you don't have to cough it up right in front. There are financing options. It's a lot more affordable than it used to be. And I got a certain procedure done called the advanced procedure that I'm actually covered for life, which means that if I need a correction 10, 20 years down the road, I'm covered. Mainly, I think it deals with how thick your cornea is. That's kind of a factor there. So you go in, get the assessment, they'll tell you what you're eligible for, they give you financing options, and you pull the trigger and go for it. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Unless you love glasses, in my way.
I couldn't do it, honestly.
I can't do it, man.
Yeah, I was getting away for a long time with playing sports and all that stuff, like squinting my eyes and,
Okay.
Like, I'm Asian, or like, you know what I mean? So like, me squinting it doesn't help, right? So
foggy glasses in the winter.
Oh gosh.
Like icicles on.
Yeah, for sure.
Not a good one.
Question for you.
Yes.
How long have you been training jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, stuff like that?
So I started off when I was 16. I was doing boxing. This is over in Cambridge and Kitchener. It wasn't anything too serious, maybe like once a week. I started training seriously in, I want to say end of 2014. Walked into adrenaline. Had no idea what was going on. This was with Rowan Cunningham and Jesse Goff. So these are the two instructors at Adrenaline that run the jiu-jitsu program. So shout out Jesse and Rowan. My first experience with jiu-jitsu was, this is kind of at the peak of my strength. I was lifting really heavy. I was eating a lot. My numbers were good. I felt strong. I was good. I was 25. I was prime.
Yeah.
I want to do some damage over here. So I step onto the mats, and Nick Barden, Nick.
Nick, yeah.
Yeah, Nick takes me under his wing. OG. Takes me under his wing and shows me what a shrimp is, a hip escape is, and how to roll and all this stuff. I'm like, okay. So about 45 minutes go by. We learn a scissor sweep.
Yeah.
Right? We learn a scissor sweep. So you know what the feeling when you get a sweep and it just flows nicely?
Yeah.
So I'm going into these rounds, I got a sweep under my belt, I'm good. First person I rolled with was a woman probably half my size and weight. And for the next 5 minutes, just mopped the floor with me. I had no answer to anything. And I just remember after the 5 minutes was gone, first of all, I was completely exhausted.
Yeah.
And I thought, what just happened? And I was in shock, right?
How was your ego?
Got hit by a bus. I remember I went in the shower and I was like having this existential moment, like, man, I guess I'm not as good as I thought I was, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the first thought I had. I was like, what just happened? But then that was hooked. After that it was no gi on Tuesday with Chris Clements, Mency. Mondays and Thursdays and Saturdays doing the gi program there. Around that same time, I took up kickboxing. I did a lot of classes with Mark Hominick, Sam Stout, Chris Hordeski, Malcolm Gordon, Jesse Goff, a lot of boxing as well. Chris Clemens taught me how to kick. Finally, I was a soccer player. I can kick.
Oh, jeez.
So Nancy took me under his wing. He's like, we got to fix this. So it's been about, I guess long story short, it's been about 4 years of kickboxing, of jiu-jitsu, a little bit of MMA in there as well.
A lot of humbling experience?
All the time, man. All the time.
Can I ask you, how important is it to be humbled?
I think it kind of...
And how often?
Yeah. I think you always need to be humble, but you also don't sacrifice confidence.
100%.
Because I know that if I'm going on the mats and I'm like, I'm going to be peaceful and super humble, it's, you know, you owe it to your training partners to train hard and to train confidently. Because ultimately you are there to get better and everyone else is there to get better. But I guess the staying humble part is more of an internal expression than an outward expression. And we all know people who aren't humble in what they look like, and you don't want to be that person on or off the mats. But you know, if you're not staying humble and you're not staying realistic with where you are, where you're at, you're going to get pushed out, or you're going to push yourself out. It's very hard to play that long game if you're not staying humble. If your expectation is to go in there and beat everybody, you'll learn pretty quick that that's not going to happen. And I think people with that kind of mindset, either they can't handle, you know, getting rinsed all the time and they leave. But I find that if anyone who's kind of stuck around in this long enough, I mean, obviously there are exceptions, but it tends to humble you, because I don't think there's a way that you keep doing this without checking that ego at the door and realizing, hey, this is part of the process, is getting humbled repeatedly.
Oh yeah.
And keep showing up.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I love seeing the people who do stick around, like you say, and they're just good people. I believe it's part of the humbling experience, and that's, you could tell, like, people have the ability to let their ego down, to learn and keep learning, to stay in this game for a long time. It's not easy. Anything to do with MMA, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, whatever, it's not easy to stick around, because you do get humbled often. And definitely be confident with your ability. I like your example of knowing your place and being confident with that spot, but also knowing that there's a next level to reach. And I think you should take that as a motivation to keep training, keep getting better, and keep getting humbled, right? Yeah. So
I mean, I love talking to you. I think the great thing about the mats, you know, being there, is that when you're on the mats, like, it doesn't matter what your religion is, doesn't matter what socioeconomic status is, you know, what your job is, where you're from, we're equal there, right? It's the art form that comes out, and you know, especially in training with someone like yourself, who's been doing it for years, who's accumulated that experience, kind of hearing about what your process is in how you approach positions and how you approach, you know, your game plan. It's fascinating, because you know, there's things that you tell me that could be almost like a paradigm shift, like, hey, like, put your focus here instead of trying to, you know, do this, try this instead, and then you try it and it works, and you're like, wow. And then next week the guy knows you're going to do that, so you have to keep doing it. And I think the overall kind of theme here is that, you know, once you put the work in to get to a certain point, don't stop putting that work in. It's not going to get easier magically. Like, in fact, you're probably going to have to keep pushing yourself to get better, to keep leveling up. So it is a long journey, it is a long game, and embracing that journey is, I think, essential. So
yeah, for sure. I just want to say one thing about back again with playing with the cards you're dealt with. Like, for myself, I always think of myself the same way that you thought of yourself, is that you're not good enough to be at that, but I always didn't think that I'm the smartest, strongest, or whatever. But the one thing that I do have is I know how to work hard and just keep grinding, right?
Definitely.
So I played the cards that I'm dealt with. So I'll work hard and keep working hard at that thing, and then eventually I learned that I have to work smart
Yes.
and hard.
Yeah.
So it's a game changer. What you said about like learning from me and learning from other people is when you learn that little thing that changes your game, it's crazy. I think we could take that from in real life. If you try to learn from each person, and there's a lot of advice that we don't use. Let's be honest, right? We read a lot of books, we listen to a lot of podcasts. We might not use any of that advice, but we have it in the back of our brain. But there might be that one tiny thing that changes our game like crazy. So that tells us, listen to everybody. Get different looks all the time. I think it's good for us.
Yeah, I think we do live in an age where there's a lot of information, there's a lot of advice. Everyone seems to be an expert on something.
Yeah.
And we have to be pretty selective, like you said, of kind of what advice we do. But I mean, you take everything with a grain of salt. Like, I've been fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of mentors in my life, both professionally and personally, that have kind of pushed me to have essentially demanded the best of me, right? And sometimes that advice or sometimes that little thing is not always easy to hear. But
so good for you though.
It is, and I think
good.
it's essential. So especially with this being the theme of fitness as well. Like if there's any coaches listening here or any fitness professionals that are early on in their career, one of the best things that I ever happened to me or I was able to do was find a mentor early on that held me accountable to the skill and to the art of coaching. And this wasn't always easy. There were evenings after sessions where I would get evaluated. And I would leave thinking, what the heck am I doing here? Like I thought I was a good trainer. I thought I was a good coach, and apparently I did all this. But these mentors are put in your life. They will either challenge you, or it's your choice to either be challenged by them and to be better, or to kind of ignore the advice and continue marching to the beat of our own drum. But I found some of the mentors like Maria Mountain over at Revolution Conditioning, Tyler Doig, Brian Gastaldi. These are guys that took me under their wing early on, and I made a lot of mistakes with them, but they were very patient, and the end product was I'm fairly confident in my coaching abilities because I quote unquote kind of went through the ringer.
Yeah.
And these are people that push me very hard, but I'm a far better person at the end of the day, so I'm very, very grateful to have met them.
Yeah, just like teaching and working out yourself, like getting strong in every position, like in that squat position, you want to be strong throughout the motion, right? And I think you have it on point. It sounds like you do. Like, and you helping people, did that motivate you, or like, did it push you to wanting to do a podcast?
I think so. The podcast thing was I had kind of thought about it for a long time. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I thought, hey, I could talk for an hour. Right? I could do this. Who wants to listen? It's a lot harder than it actually looks, right?
100%.
Yeah,
there's a lot of work
it's not
behind the
just
scenes.
kinda
100%.
But I thought, it seems to be a medium where you can express your thoughts relatively uninhibited. Like, it's a conversation, so it's a little easier to listen to. It's very accessible. And when Tommy and I came together, the idea was just to add, additional value to people at the gym, at Hybrid Fitness. And in the process, I knew that I would meet a lot of people and I would learn a lot. When I'm talking to guests on the podcast, some of the times I'm drawing, a blank look because I'm processing what they're telling me because I'm learning so much. And then I remember 100%. I'm on air. It's what's my next question? Okay, here we go. So
yeah.
But I think that the podcast it was pretty organic how it developed. But ultimately, what it came down to was wanting to have another piece in addition to kind of coaching and what we do online that would not only add value to people who are kind of in a similar boat, looking to better themselves, all things health and wellness. But to also kind of highlight the community that we have in London. Some of the people that are here are involved in some amazing things. So if if we could provide a platform for them to get exposure and for them to share, and there's someone listening and they want to get involved, then there's synergy all the way around. So it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. Is
really, it's what it's about, right?
And by listening to what you're saying there, I can tell that you love helping people.
Mm-hmm.
So that ties perfect together with being what I feel like is essential to being a great trainer, a great coach, great mentor, great podcast host, right? So
number one.
Yeah, one of the things. I just want to get a few tips for the viewers here, or the listeners. I keep saying viewers because I have a video there, but yeah. We talked about balance. Yep. So first, can you give us a tip on if somebody is having a hard time balancing?
I would say lay your priorities and understand that having a hard time balancing is normal, right?
Definitely.
That's what balance is. Like balance, it's dynamic. It's not a static thing. So you can't really, there's things that are outside your control that are always going to affect your balance, right? Like an event, a promotion, a bad night of sleeping because your kid's awake, right? These are things that affect your balance. So understand that it's a thing that you always kind of have to work at. But what I find works for me is understanding, where are my priorities and what are my values. Each day we have a certain amount of decisions, and those decisions demand actions. So look at lining up your actions with your priorities, and then understanding too that, hey, this is a dynamic thing, so it's not going to be perfect. Don't demand perfection of yourself. A quote that I love, and I'm glad you brought this up, is how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you want to have great balance, demand great action and great choices. Like you look at a Ferrari, right? What makes a Ferrari a Ferrari? Is it the paint? Is it the engine? Is it the tires? Right? Is it the emblem? It's everything.
It's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
So try to act in a way that is great. Try to act in a way that is in line with your priorities, but understand that it will not always be perfect. Actually, it will never be perfect. And when it goes down the drain, which it will, don't hammer yourself. Understand it's part of the process. Keep working at it. You will get better. Things will make more sense. But I think having that foundation is the ultimate guider, because that is one thing that you will always have in the face of a changing environment.
Yeah. Great tip. Ooh. Great tip. That was really good. Our next topic that we talked about was having laser eye surgery.
Yep.
And maybe counting your blessings or appreciating those little things.
Yeah.
How can we help people appreciate those little things a little bit more?
I
almost tie in together a little bit, right?
I had this conversation with my daughter a couple weeks back, and we're all guilty of kind of like looking over to the other side where the grass is greener, and it's always going to be that case, whether that is, it's always going to appear that things can be better somewhere else, but I think ultimately if you water your own lawn, it will get greener. But that is the only guarantee. So, just appreciating little things. Like I said, I looked at a bird and I appreciated a bird. I was probably getting judged hard by people on the street because I was just zoning out, spacing out, looking at things. But, if you're finding that you're not finding things to be grateful for or thankful for, maybe change your perspective a little bit. Count your blessings. I guarantee that for every bad thing that's happening in your life, you can name at least 2 good things. So
Hopefully. That's exactly what you said, is if you can't, you gotta look at your perspective on life, right? What are we doing this for? Are we doing it just for money and being unhappy? Are we doing this just for whatever? You gotta, at the end of the day, you gotta always find a way to be happy. And I listened to a lot of your podcasts, and it seems to be a lot of, you can't replace one thing with another without breaking down the essential, like the initial thing. Like if you're insecure about yourself, you can't replace it with certain things, right? You gotta, take that down. Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow because it's going to demand a lot of change. And even in marriage, like I'm speaking, I've been married for
for almost 4 years now.
That's
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what I'm noticing is that, in order to progress as a couple and also as an individual within that relationship, you're going to have to address the things that are at the root. And a lot of times these manifest differently, right? These may manifest in ways that you didn't really understand, the same way that, some of our behaviors manifest, whether that's as eating, or snacking, or not sleeping, or, having some sort of behavior that isn't in line with what you want for health, is looking at yourself, looking at, where could this be coming from, and then addressing that thing. Very much kind of like the first question that you talked about, where I talked about priority setting. If you haven't found balance, it's like find that foundation first, and then look at what actions come from that, as opposed to trying to fix each individual action.
Yeah, absolutely. And adapting to little changes, big changes. But I've been married 7 years, not a competition. Not a competition.
Well, I'm always going to be playing catch up.
Yeah.
Congrats, though.
I'm just playing. But so when I married my wife, it was just me and her, right? 7 years later, I have 2 dogs, 2 kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think the same things that we thought were important back then are the same now? No. We change and we adapt and we get better. We learn to get along better, It's an efficiency thing, right?
For
and
sure.
Being happy and being better at everything, right? So
I think if you can find that common ground,
Oh.
you can grow as a person, and you don't have to like the same things necessarily. You don't have to spend all the time together, but I think what you do have to do is find out how can I contribute to make this relationship better? How can I help the other person?
Yeah.
And that changes as people change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back to the balance theme, right? It's a work in progress. So
Yeah.
Is it ever?
It's a it's a long-term game, right? When you make that commitment to get married, you should think about that things are going to change.
Sure.
Right? And I feel like some things that don't have to change is, your base self, like you're a good person, all that stuff, right? But always trying to make your loved one happy and balancing so you can have that and be a good dad, be a good husband, right? So
happy wife, happy life.
That's it, man. Yep.
I mean, I guess if you're doing the right thing, your wife's gonna be happy.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Right?
And
hopefully
they appreciate what you do, and we appreciate what they do, obviously, 100%.
Yeah.
Now this sounds like we're really buttering up our wives, eh? Maybe. But one thing, our next one that we talked about is leading by example. And you lead by example in many different ways. Again, we talked about it a little bit, but how important is it to lead by example?
I think it's important to lead. I think it's also important to follow at certain points. I talked about mentors. There were times when I didn't necessarily have to lead. I had to kind of put the leadership in the back seat and observe what good leadership looks like.
Yeah.
Kind of break it down. Like, what is it that? What are elements of good leadership? I'm always trying to lead better.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to observe leadership better as well. But I think, an effective leader has gone through some failure and gone through some trials and gone through some hardships and has emerged as a better person. I think those are essential to being a leader. You can't preach something that you haven't done, right? Like, how am I going to demand the best from my clients if I'm not showing them that I too am going through that and I understand? I think it's essential. I guess that would be where I would.
And they see that, right? They see that when you put in the work. It's like say that you teach in the class. If the new guy comes in, they're like, "Hey, Deon, you do a squat, and you can't do it." I don't even know what to say, right?
I'll tell you what. There's some CrossFit movements that I cannot do, and I was training for about 2.5 years before coming to hybrid, and I was pretty good with, my squats and my base movements and my movement efficiency. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
There were things that I could not do, and it was a humbling experience. I said, hey, I can learn this. And I think when members can see that here's a coach that isn't Iron Man or a Superman, is a human, and is trying hard and is working hard, it humanizes you, and in fact it makes you more relatable, right?
100%. I like that. Mm-hmm. I like that a lot.
So yes, understanding and having a good proficiency with your movements, I'm speaking purely from a coach perspective, is important, but also working hard and showing your weaknesses to people makes you human, makes you relatable. Mm-hmm. And we had this great post we did last week. It was of a coach here. Her name was Janelle. She's been a coach for, I think, about 8 months now, and we put a before and after picture of her. Mm-hmm. And she's a phenomenal woman, and the feedback that we got from showing her journey, to where she is now, it inspired so many people, and they said, wow, if she can do this, if she can take on this long journey of improvement, then I want to do that too. And it gives that extra little bit of validity when she says something, or when that someone's been
through it,
through the battlefield.
Yeah,
you're going to listen to that person because they know what they're talking about.
I absolutely agree with that. And this is like going off on another part of that. Say that we look on social media. We talked a little bit about that. When we see that perfect trainer, they never ate a carb in their life type person. Yeah. It's tough to relate to them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I like your point on being relatable and showing that we put in work too.
Yeah.
We put in work. We have weaknesses too, and we're working on it.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. Like, we're always gonna try to keep getting better.
Yeah.
As coaches, trainers, people, and everything, right?
Yeah.
Before we close this off,
all right.
Deon,
all right.
Is there any plugs? Anybody you want to shout out? Hybrid, obviously.
Shout out to Hawk. Shout out to Hawk. I've known Hawk for years now.
Yeah.
I think I met you on the mats, probably, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I remember meeting you for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're always doing some crazy calisthenics. Is that your primary base of exercise, would you say?
Yes, for the last 5-6 years, it has been, but not always.
Not always.
Yeah.
You're kind of trying different things.
Before that, I was not mobile before.
Yeah.
I was just lifting heavy.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just like yourself. I thought I was a tough guy.
Strong.
25. Who can stop me?
Yeah.
As I got slower in jiu-jitsu, I'm like, I gotta change this up.
Yeah.
And as soon as I changed it up, it was game over.
Game over.
Yeah. I loved moving. I loved being in a body that I can maintain my whole life without putting massive pressure or anything on it, right? So.
Yeah, you're one of the most consistently strong and mobile people that I roll with, and it's never a good time rolling with you, and I mean that from a very respectful place, because your timing and your strength and your gas tank is phenomenal. So whatever it is that you're doing is working. Shout out to whoever's listening to this. There's a lot of people at Hybrid. There's a lot of people in the London community that are kind of part of the vision, I guess, that you and I are with. So whoever is looking to get better day by day and be a good person, shout out that person. So, yeah.
If you guys are looking for a good coach or a good facility, Hybrid is beautiful. It's beautiful here.
It's nice.
Everything's nice here. Everything's nice here.
It's good people.
Yeah, good people. Check out Deon's Instagram, or if you want to get a hold of him, we'll put we'll put everything on our page there too. So, but I appreciate you coming on our podcast too.
Thank you. Yeah,
I love it.
We're gonna get a round 2 and round 3 in on this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
awesome.
And we're gonna go roll soon. So
I'm gonna get my butt kicked by Hawk for an hour.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
I'm gonna get humbled by Hawk.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.